I'm joined in the studio by Jonathan Downey, the restaurateur and bar-owning legend turned campaigner and founder of Hospitality Union, which took the concerns of the hospitality business to government over the course of the last lockdown, got an awful lot done. He's also an old pal of mine, and last time I saw him, he was happy. We were having lunch. We were going, yay, everything's fine. I was going to say he doesn't look happy now, but he's always grinning. But I saw you on Breakfast TV, Johnny. You're not happy, are you?
Yeah, I think this is the most frustrated, angry I've been through this entire sort of pandemic. I thought we were just coming out of it. My industry's been on its knees for the last 6 months. We were allowed to reopen on the 4th of July. We've had hundreds of millions of visitors in that time. No spike in cases. We're hospitality venues are some of the safest places. We've been adhering to these lengthy rules and regulations and all this guidance and sanitizing and one-way systems and masks and everything else. And it's not led to an increase in cases. And then everyone goes back to school and university, and all of a sudden we see a spike, and we can see it at Liverpool University and in Glasgow and in Dundee and everywhere else. And it's kind of inevitable, but we're getting the blame. And it's an easy to use word, and it's a bit of a whingy word, but we are being scapegoated here. And when Matt Hancock went on Radio 4 last week, on Friday, and said the vast majority of these new cases is happening in hospitality and homes, that was an outright lie, and that was teeing things up for the announcement this week that they were going to bring in this curfew, and that will destroy 1 million jobs in my industry. And I've been campaigning for the last 6 months, to try and save 2 million jobs. Well, I think we just lost 1 million overnight with this curfew.
Because you got a long way with it before, didn't you? I mean, there was the furlough scheme came along. You were overjoyed about that. Yeah. There was rent holidays. I mean, but were businesses broadly surviving then up until? Well,
when lockdown was announced, and we all sort of bought into that as an idea, we all felt it was necessary to do it. They then backed that up a few days later with a fiscal support package from the Treasury that supported businesses with furlough, with business rates relief, with subsequently a VAT break and everything else to see businesses through so they could hibernate and come back at the beginning of July, and that happened. This curfew is just as damaging to my industry, but then yesterday Rishi did not come up with the goods. It was a big day for him in Parliament, a big day for him in his career, and he did not come up with the goods. And this job support scheme is just meaningless to most people. It's where you pay, as an employer, 55% of an individual's wages to get them for 33% of the time. The maths don't add up. I thought Rishi was one of the good ones, but this is nonsensical. It's not going to work, and the curfew is just going to mean that businesses can't open anyway.
Because people are presenting a dynamic as if it's like Rishi's the good guy, that Boris weirdly is being all cautious, but Rishi's gung ho. I mean, Hancock, you mentioned Gove. They wanted to have a 2-week fire break closing everywhere, didn't they?
Yeah.
Where you're saying it's an outright lie, and that's fair enough. Why does Hancock think that it was being spread in hospitality? It's not just like he's the Wicked Witch of the West and wants to close restaurants. Surely, why does he think it was spreading there?
Well, he's not the brightest bloke in cabinet, is he? So I don't know why. I think one reason I've heard is that they know it's going to spread through young people. Young people are going to go out. Young people feel invincible. Young people are generally absolutely safe if they've not got any pre-existing conditions. And so they're going to go out and socialise. And so they think that by stopping the activity after 10 p.m, that will stop young people socialising. It won't. They're just going to socialise somewhere else. They're going to move from large, well-ventilated, well-managed, licensed venues into smaller spaces, flats and house parties. It's going to have the opposite effect. So I don't understand why they've done it. There's been no explanation. There's been no science. And the data, we should be following the data now, not the science, because all of the science 6 months ago was projections and estimates. We can now look back and we know where these things are happening. Public Health England last week produced figures that show outside of the home, where most transmission is happening, outside of the home, the biggest concern is care homes. 43% of transmission, traceable transmission, is happening in care homes, again, for Christ's sake. I don't know why that is. 26% is happening in education, universities and schools, 15% in workplaces, 4.6% in hospitality venues. 4.6. So it should not be hospitality that takes the hit for this increase in cases.
So why are they focusing on it then? Is it because it's a big public gesture? Is it a sort of mood of a new puritanism that they want to be seen to be stopping fun?
Yeah, I think it's that. And I think this is a government that seems to be led, or a cabinet that seems to be led by pressure from the press and public opinion. They're looking at the opinion polls. It's an easy target. Yeah, it's all these people drinking in pubs and getting drunk and not obeying distancing and, and all that kind of thing and ignoring the rule of six. It's simply not true. The data is there. The evidence is clear. Now, if that changes over time, then as an industry, we will respond. But that's not the case at the moment. We don't understand it. And it's this mass panic. This mass panic. This is a virus we are dealing with. We are not fighting an alien army. This is not an extinction event. The Death Star is not entering Earth orbit. We need to get some perspective, and we can't just stop society, put a pause on everything to try and deal with this. There needs to be a better way, and we need to get that balance right. And that's a word I'm hearing a lot more of at the moment. We need to get the balance right between living and locking down.
And do you think is it just a case of sort of disproportionality? You're not saying we should. There's the argument that people should take a bit of a hit because we've got to keep the economy going. You're not saying that. You're saying the hospitality literally proposes no risk at all, and that in fact imposing the curfew is going to make the figures go up. Yeah,
it's going to have the opposite effect. And also, it's a bit like we're not dealing with the core problem. We need to get care homes sorted. We need to look at universities and schools, perhaps, or not. I don't know. I'm not in the position to make those kind of decisions. But it's a bit like arresting, charging, and imprisoning. There's a killer out there in the community. It's a bit like arresting, charging, and imprisoning the wrong guy. Okay? The killer's still out there.
It's like in the Black Death when they thought it was being spread by cats.
Yeah.
So they went and killed all the cats. And that meant that the rats, which were the ones which had the fleas, which was the things that spread it.
Yeah.
So from here, because you did quite well persuading government before, from here, what? I mean, it's happening. The curfew is in place now. I'm going out for dinner tonight. Literally, in fact, I'm going out with as it happens, I suppose that's not discreet, our old friend Henry Dimbleby, who's the government food plan, who's been on this show talking about it. I'm having dinner with him at 7:30 round the corner at Richard Corrigan's newish restaurant, Daffodil Mulligan.
I was there yesterday. It's absolutely superb.
I went in just before lockdown. Poor Richard Corrigan, Irishman, the loveliest man in hospitality, such fun. Went in there. It was the day before the lockdown. He just opened. I couldn't review it because it wasn't going to be open. He's just emailed me, we're open again, why don't you come? The curfew's come in, and I've planned for us all to meet, four of us, then a fifth wanted to come, and I said, we can't have two more because that'll be illegal. Table for 7:30, Henry said, can we do 7? Because I don't think I can get my dinner down before 10 o'clock. It's happening now. What can you do now to make them roll back? What are you planning?
I said the other day on Twitter, one thing we know this government is really good at is U-turns, and they've got to U-turn on curfew. It's a mistake. It's a mistake. If the evidence changes over the next few weeks, so the data suggests otherwise, I'm very confident it won't do, then okay. But they've got to U-turn on this because it's going to have the opposite effect, and it is going to destroy 1 million jobs. I think Rishi took a big red pen yesterday and just put a line through 1 million jobs. That can't be right. That's not good for anybody. That's not good for the economy, that's not good for the NHS. Hospitality is a really major contributor to the economy. I think 133.5 billion last year. We employ 3.2 million people directly. 4.5 million people rely on hospitality for their jobs. Most of them, 50% of the people employed in hospitality are the age between 16 and 24. We are the first job for a lot of people. They learn really good soft skills, interpersonal skills. We are vital to the UK. And I can't believe he's just drawn a line through the 900,000 hospitality employees that are still on furlough, because at the end of October, those jobs are gone.
There are those who are going to say, 1 million jobs, it's where all the people are going to lose their jobs. It's only an early night. It's 10 p.m. What's the big deal? What happened? Nothing good happens after 10 p.m, some people say. What's so terrible about an early night?
It's not just an early night, is it? So, for instance, my business, I own a site in Soho called Milk and Honey, which has been there for 18 years. And we had just had a reprieve. The lease forfeiture moratorium was extended to the end of the year. We've been having trouble with our landlord, but we're expecting to trade until the end of the year. We're normally open 6 p.m. to 3 a.m, 6 nights a week. Post-lockdown, we've been open 6 p.m. to 1 a.m, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. As a result of this curfew, tonight and tomorrow will be the last 2 nights Milk and Honey will be open. We've been there 18 years. We were the world's best bar 4 years in a row. We will be gone after Saturday because this curfew has killed us. And I was expecting to be trading till the end of the year. Gone forever. Trading till the end of the year, within which time I hope to maybe reach a deal with my landlord so we can continue on there. 50-50 chance of doing that. There's probably a 1% chance now that I can reach a deal while we are forced to close down yet again. It's called a curfew, but for a lot of businesses in the nighttime economy, it's effectively a lockdown.
is there no way that people can shift their day earlier? I mean, it could sound glib, it could sound ridiculous, but the people aren't having to go to offices. They're not in offices until 6. It was confusing where we're supposed to be, whether we're meant to go to work or not. But people aren't finishing work at 6 or 7 and then going out and starting drinking at 8:30.
Yeah.
If you're working from home, could you not start your evening at 4?
Yeah, well, I think I saw an email the other day saying 4 p.m. is the new 6 p.m. And for some businesses that work. At Daffodil Mulligan, they're starting earlier at 5 rather than 6, and that will help.
Restaurants can then get 2 sittings in. One of the problems for restaurants, like they would have a sitting. It was 7 till 9 and 9 till 11, wasn't it? Really?
Yeah. I ate at the Clove Club last night when they did the tasting menu. I never had a tasting menu work through so quickly. And then
that's a bonus, of course.
Yeah,
sometimes you don't want to sit for too long.
You don't sit for 3 hours, and it was brilliant. It was really fantastic. And then you get kicked out into the streets at 10 to 10. And the streets of Shoreditch, not quite swarming, but I've never seen so many police officers on the street. And I've lived in Hackney since 1992 through riots and all kinds of things. I've never seen so many police in Shoreditch going around checking that bars and restaurants have got everybody off the premises by 10 p.m. It's ridiculous. It's not happening there. Why are you doing this?
They were really out. The police were out enforcing.
They were out in force on the street. It's great to see a police presence in some respects. Yeah. Just not doing that, though. It makes no sense. It's a bad use of resources. The Westminster licensing officials were at Milk and Honey last night at 10:20 checking that everyone was off site. They weren't. And insisting that everyone was removed from the building, and they'll be back tonight again doing the same thing. It's we're living in this kind of it's not a police state, but it's a new era of just oppression and destruction of simple liberties that we've been used to for decades. And I don't understand why these things are happening, and why this kind of freedom is being eroded when the evidence is not there, and the science does not support, the data does not back up the reasons for these steps.
Apart from anything else, it sounds like it's sort of like the absurdity of closing parks or areas of parks. So in Hampstead Heath, they closed Kenwood which meant that all the people who wanted to go to the park, which was the only thing you could do, went to a smaller bit of park and were together. It seems to me if you shrink down Friday night by half, everyone's going to go out at the same time, aren't they? And presumably the places will be more rammed than they would be.
Exactly. There were pictures circulating yesterday about after hours, 10 o'clock, and people spilling out onto the streets, everyone trying to get on the tubes, everyone trying to get an Uber or a taxi home, and where do they all go to next? They all pile into the local off-license to buy some booze to take on somewhere else. It's not working the right way, and I don't know, someone's got to get to grips with it. It seems to me that within Cabinet, Boris said to Matt Hancock and Rishi Sunak, listen, you two have an arm wrestle, and whoever wins, I'm going to go with you. And it seems that Matt Hancock is better at arm wrestling than Rishi.
He's only little, Rishi.
He's only little.
Yeah, I mean,
he's got a big brain.
He has. He's a clever,
tiny arms.
He's a clever bloke, and he's he's manoeuvring. He's got that voice, and when I hear him, it sounds a bit like Tony Blair, which is like a good and a bad thing. It's statesman-like, but possibly a bit weaselly. He's manoeuvring for the big job. What about his job support scheme? Is that?
Nah, it's a waste of time. I mean, I think it would be useful for some of the chains and businesses that are going to carry on no matter what. They're well resourced and financially strong, but it's useless for the independents. It's of no use to anyone who's it's supporting jobs that aren't there. So it's subsidising jobs that will be there anyway. Mm-hmm. So it's a wrong move. It doesn't do anything. It was a really disappointing day yesterday, and we've had to call closure on Milk and Honey. We're doing the same on Dinorama, my big venue in Shoreditch. We've got this weekend and next weekend, and then we're done at that. So, and I started beginning of this year with a fantastic business that employed 90 people. Everyone will be gone by the end of October, including me. I'm going to have to make myself redundant. So, that's what's happened to my business, and that's repeated times 1,000 over this city and times tens of thousands across the country.
Do you think the government understands that? Because they made big noises before about, even Hancock, that hospitality is the life product of our economy. Yep. It sounds like what you're describing sounds like a sort of disregard for the nighttime economy, as if it was somehow seedy and unimportant, and we'll do everything to protect schools, obviously, but we're disregarding that. Do you think they failed to understand the ramifications of what they've done?
I think several months ago they did understand, and they recognised the importance of our industry. I think recently they've stopped listening and they've stopped caring, and they've literally abandoned the nighttime economy. Yes, so I think there's about 1.2, 1.3 hospitality people work in the nighttime economy. They've had no support. Nightclubs still not allowed to close. Music venues are still not allowed to open. Music venues still not open. All kinds of nighttime economy businesses will now close as a result of this curfew, and they've not been offered anything. So they're all gone. They've gone.
And can you do anything? I mean, there are these these Tory rebels. I haven't that much about it, but I caught it. I think Graham Brady, the sort of 1922 committee guy, this old stager on the back benches. There's some of the sort of Brexity, of righty, the old fellas, the awkward squad are trying to defeat Boris on this. Do you think they can succeed?
I don't know. Strange as it may seem, I never thought they would be our best hope. But I mean, there needs to be some kind of rebellion within government. There needs to be some kind of rebellion from the public. I think we can't just sit by and let this happen and just roll over.
We're not calling for civil disobedience here on Times Radio, or are we?
Well, I am.
Oh, right. Well, you're not. Well, we don't endorse it. But no, I mean, because let's face it, these kids are going to be out and reasonably tanked up. And as you say, the police. Boris has threatened the army. He says not in face-to-face whatever's, but it's a great. I mean, we wouldn't want. I mean, people are worried about disobedience coming because of the loss of jobs for all the other reasons. The sort of the tinderbox, the BLM, all that kind of stuff. In the end, if you're creating nighttime, a curfew is the classic place. Nighttime standoffs between police and young people who've had a couple of drinks. It's a bad prospect.
It really is. Who knows what's going to happen? I'm not very optimistic. I think we're in this new age of acquiescence, and we've just become a nation compliant, just accepting these new rules almost without question. I think, with rare exception, the British press has been really poor at sort of scrutinising and questioning some of these steps and some of these moves, parroting press releases that have that just make no sense. And I think it's been real disappointment that I can sense a change in the last few weeks and months, but we really need to. I mean, TV especially, I think, has been a real disappointment. I think the BBC's done some great stuff. But just letting them get away with it when, in trying too hard to be apolitical and without bias. But actually, when a cabinet minister, when the Secretary of State for Health goes onto radio and lies about the source of infection transmission and blaming hospitality, no one questions that, and no one says that's not quite right.
Well, look, we have.
We have. Well done, Times Radio.
We have. To Jonathan Downey from Hospitality Union on Times Radio.